Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Amma ba'd. So this week, this class is going to talk about the economic thought of Ibn Hazm. So he is in the list of scholars that he is number 3 according to our course outline. So I would like to also give you because you need to follow the chronological order. So if you see, we talked about Imam Abu Yusuf, who died in 182 Hijri. 182. So he was in the 2nd century. Then we talked about Imam Abu Ubaid al-Qasim ibn Salam, who died in Hijri 224. So he lived in 3rd century of Hijri, which is equivalent to 838 Miladi. So the 9th century of Miladi, CE. So now we are going to talk about Ibn Hazm, but there is a big gap here, because Ibn Hazm, the one who died in 456 Hijri, which is around the 11th century. So we go from 8th century to 11th century. In between, we have, because some of the name I think I already discussed with you. For example, I talked to you about Kitab al-Kharaj of Dawoodi. You know, Kitab al-Kharaj written, the first Kitab al-Kharaj was written by Imam Abu Yusuf. And then I also talked to you about Abu Ja'far al-Dawoodi, the one who wrote another Kitab al-Kharaj. And before him, there was another Kitab al-Kharaj was written by Qudama ibn Ja'far. So you have the first one written by Abu Yusuf, the second one written by Qudama ibn Ja'far, then the third one written by Dawoodi. So if you look at the timeline, Qudama is the one who died in 337. So right after Abu Ubaid, who is our second scholar of our course outline. We're supposed to talk about Ahmad ibn Hanbal, or we need to talk about Qudama ibn Ja'far, the one who wrote the second Kitab al-Kharaj, and Abu Ja'far al-Dawoodi, who wrote the third Kitab al-Kharaj. So we are skipping it because we actually mentioned their names and their work during the period that we talked about Imam Abu Yusuf and Imam Abu Ubaid. Again, there is one more person before Ibn Hazm. There is another scholar that we are going to skip, who is al-Mawardi. Al-Mawardi died in Hijri 450. As I told you here, earlier, Ibn Hazm died 456. Al-Mawardi died 450, which is equivalent to 1058. So this al-Mawardi, the one who wrote al-Ahkam Sultaniyah, is the most outstanding work. There is also another person who wrote the same Ahkam Sultaniyah by the name the same. The person is Abu Ya'la. But this is also, this al-Mawardi also a kind of quite famous book, quite famous contribution to the economic thought. I also saw some of you already chose his book to do the data collection. So I hope it will help. So according to our course outline, we are going to talk about Ibn Hazm today. So Ibn Hazm, his real name is Abu Mohamed Ali ibn Abu Umar Ahmad ibn Sa'id ibn Hazm al-Qurtubi. Al-Qurtubi al-Andalusi. I think now you understand that we are traveling from Khurasan, which is one part of the world. We are going to the another part of the world. Look at the map. If you have the map, you can open and check. Medina is in the middle. On your map, you can see the right side. You will see Khurasan, which is actually close to Afghanistan, the border of Iran and Afghanistan. It is called Khurasan. This is where Imam Abu Ubaid came. And now we are going to talk about totally the other side. We are going to Spain. So look at the different background. In Spain, especially in Cordoba, it was under Muslim dynasties. Umayyad went to conquer. You know about the Jabal al-Tariq, Gibraltar. The mountain Jabal al-Tariq became a Gibraltar. Still, it is there at the end of Spain. From there, you can actually see Morocco if you look at the map. So we have. So now we are totally going into the other side. This like Imam Abu Ubaid was not an Arab. Ibn Hazm also lived in non-Arab country, but surprisingly, his forefathers actually came from Persia. So if you look into his family, you know, Ibn Hazm himself had written many works in anthropology, in sociology. He himself actually found many lines, you know, the family lines, the family trees of Arabs. So he himself originally came from Persian client of Yazid. By the time, you know, when Umayyad dynasty was there. But still, he lived and he died in Spain, what we called today Seville. Also, there is a place called the district of Nibla. I also checked. The same name still exists in Cordoba. In Cordoba, they call Cordoba, right? Cordoba, yeah. So we are actually going to see entirely different kind of background, and Imam Ibn Hazm actually quite famous for a Zahiri school of thought. If you look into fiqh al-madahib, I think you know about Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal, and everybody, they have the primary sources and secondary sources of usul al-fiqh. I think you know that. When it comes to Imam Ibn Hazm, it's quite different because he doesn't go beyond three main primary sources. He say there is only three primary sources. Number one is Quran, number two is Sunnah, number three is Ijma, right? Consensus. So beyond that, he does not accept Qiyas, Maslaha Mursala, Istihsan, Istishab. You know, those are the tools. He won't consider as a sources. He will not consider as a secondary sources of usul al-fiqh. So that's the reason why they named him as a Zahiri. Zahiri is something that you read whatever is in the Quran and Hadith, and whatever you perceive, whatever you see the meaning, the outlining, the apparent meaning, you just follow it. You don't have to, you know, let's say if Allah prohibit wine, then this is what Allah prohibit. You cannot use that verse for the prohibition for some other intoxication, but some other intoxication also prohibited, but not because of this verse. You got me? So what he has done, actually, you know, it seems like very simple to say, you know, he's a Zahiri. He only follow what apparently appears He doesn't go deep, but he's a great faqih, because what he has done, they call him encyclopedia of fiqh. The way that, he wrote a book, Muhalla, al-Muhalla, the sweet, al-Muhalla bil-Athar, more than 9 and 12 volumes are there. If you open the book, and you will find that, let's say, one issue, he will bring everybody's concerns and then he argue with them. Most of the concerns that he brings, most of the quotes that he brings from the previous, within that 200 and 300 years of fiqh. Some of them even you don't have the original book. Today we don't have even the original book of those comments, those quotes, but he got it from somewhere, and then he is actually referring in his book. He actually, sometime, the only issue in that book is actually he criticize, of course, criticism is okay, but sometimes he go beyond the limitation. He criticize using some very difficult words and this and that, and that's maybe one disadvantage of the book. Other than that, it's really encyclopedia of fiqh. Anyway, so that's what he was famous for, and now we need to look into it, and we need to talk about, in our second half of our lecture, we need to talk about his economic thought. What are the contents that he wrote with regard to, which are related to economic thought. So Ibn Hazm, of course, his name I gave it to you, and there are some advantages of Ibn Hazm actually. Ibn Hazm, the person who today, what they call it, they say he was born with silver spoon. People say it, right? So if you are a rich person, and then you born to a richest, then they call you born with silver spoon. So his father was quite famous, Wazir, and he was Wazir to Umayyad Khilafah. Like you may have some disagreement with me, why it is Umayyad, why it is not Abbasid. See the thing, because we are talking about 5th century of Hijri, and Umayyad were there from the 2nd century, and how come they been there until 5th century? The truth is, where Umayyad dynasty existed while Abbasid were ruling in the main land of Arabs. So that's why I said sometimes it's complicated to understand, right? They also have, so they have a city, they have a country to run. The other places will be run by other family, like Abbasid or Hashemid or Fatimid. Okay, which inshallah we will come back later. I have a map to show you. I will inshallah show you in a couple of some other classes, inshallah. So so his father was a wazir, because of that Ibn Hazm also followed the father's footstep, and he became also wazir for 3 different occasions. Firstly, he became wazir to Abdurrahman IV al-Murtada, who was an Umayyad claimant to the throne. Yeah. He also became wazir to Abdurrahman V al-Mustazhir. He also became the wazir again under Hisham al-Mu'tad. But during his time, Al-Andalus, the entire Andalus was in so many issues actually, because you know why? Because Umayyad were ruling here, but in the main land it was Abbasid were ruling. So there was always clashes, right? Clashes between titans. So here and there, they always fight each other. So that was the thing. So because since he was the greatest thinkers of the Arab Muslim civilization, he has to learn uh, literature, history, philology, rhetoric, juris, even philosophy and theology. He has to learn all those things. And even his family was actually giving him, it's like, someone living in palace, and the teachers will come to you to teach you. It's that kind of. So this Ibn Hazm is, mashallah, is in a way is a very rich ulama, actually rich imam, by the way, right? There was I read this somewhere, I don't remember where it is exactly. There was a scholar came to Ibn Hazm, and there was a debate. He talked to Ibn Hazm. He says that, do you know how difficult was it to, this ulama, this alim came to see Ibn Hazm. I don't know his name. He was a poor family. He was coming from poor family. He doesn't have access to many knowledge, but he managed to get everything. He learned by himself. He spent a lot going everywhere, traveling, and he learned. So he came to Ibn Hazm and he said, I went all the way. I struggled. I spent a lot to learn. I spent a lot to learn. So, but in your case, he is talking to Ibn Hazm. In your case, it was quite easy for you because ilm came to you because of your family. Then, this is amazing. You know what Ibn Hazm said? Ibn Hazm said, okay, then this statement that you are making, it might go against you. The other person was surprising how this statement will go against me. Yes, this statement may go against you because you said you spent a lot and then you learn. And then you became alim. Now you become the alim. Now what will be your ikhlas? What will be your niyyah? Because you spent a lot to learn, so your concern will be, maybe, he says, your concern might be, collecting the wealth through the ilm that you have. And mine, I didn't spend anything for ilm, but alhamdulillah, Allah gave me. So now my concern will be like, contributing something without expecting anything. But now you might be expecting something. So you see, this is an amazing conversation they had. Actually, I like it in a way. So that's how. So he was also Imam Ibn Hazm was also had a high degree of scholarship and leadership. He possessed personal traits, right? Essential for any scholar to be molded, of course, the strength and memory. And also he was having the benefit of thorough education. Like I told you just now, he was having a thorough education. And then he also commanded over various foreign languages, because that is the advantage of being in Andalus. You can learn many languages, many cultures, right? He was also benefiting from conducive environment. That's because of the notable family that he had, right? And then he was actively participating in ministry, because he was a wazir himself. He was a wazir in public affairs and administration, military and political concerns. So he knows all. He possesses those kind of participations. And also, finally, he was positively reacting to his opposition. So he doesn't care about anybody, meaning to say that he was very outspoken, and he always reacted to his opposition. And that's because of his background. He doesn't need to worry. He doesn't need to be afraid of anybody, right? So let me see what I have. Okay, these are his positions. He proved to be a forceful literature, as I told you. Okay, according to the son of Ibn Hazm, he gave this information. He said Ibn Hazm had completed as many as 400 works. all comprising 80,000 sheets. Can you believe? 80,000 papers, 400 works in jurisprudence, logic, history, ethics, comparative religion, and theology. Only 40 works. Unfortunately, only 40 of these works are still existing. And the work that we are going to talk about is actually al-Muhalla bil-Athar, right? So before we jump into his work, let me see if I have anything else to share with you. Okay. Right. Okay, talked about his career and all. I talked about his Zahiri media. Okay, I think more or less I covered. So let us talk about his economic ideas. Before we go into economic ideas, let me introduce you his book, right? I think that's important to everyone should know about every scholar's book. Like we talked about Abu Yusuf, and we talked about Kitab al-Kharaj. We talked about Imam Abu Ubaid, then we talked about Kitab al-Amwal. Now we are in Ibn Hazm, and we are going to talk about al-Muhalla bil-Athar. I think not necessarily it has to be only this book. And this book also is not that easy for you to go through, because I told you there are 9 volumes in one publication. There is another 12 volumes in another publication. So you will be losing if you go through the book, because this is not like, you know, 1 volume book. It's not like Kitab al-Kharaj, like, you know, Kitab al-Kharaj is around 100 pages. Khalas. It is not about like Kitab al-Amwal, like, you know, just only 200 pages. Not like that. Al-Muhalla is the series of Islamic law and jurisprudence, right? The name is al-Muhalla, which means the sweetened, the adored treatise. This book is actually a commentary of his extensive work. This book is actually talks about, you know, so many things actually. The reception were different, people to people, but alhamdulillah, they managed to publish it before they had a criticism on it. In fact, you know, this book they wanted to read in Haram. It was actually prohibited to read. That's because of the language. I mean, you know, the harsh language about people who follow qiyas, people who follow istihsan, people who follow masalih mursala. Of course, you know, every time, you know, because we read fiqh in our undergraduate, right? So when we read fiqh, we always, it's like, you know, there is a 5th mazhab. We have 4 mazhab, of course. When we talk about another person, the Imam Ibn Hazm al-Zahiri will always come there, because he will become himself as a 5th Imam. So according to him is what? So we didn't understand that time, because why it is necessary to bring his statement is, but it is quite necessary because he added the flavor in fiqh. You know, you need somebody's contribution always to be remembered in every time you talk about. Otherwise, you know, it's not interesting. So every time, because of this book al-Muhalla, this book is actually a wealth of scholarship, because Ibn Hazm, he discusses each question separately, each issue separately. Every issue, for every single issue, which is fiqh al-Muamalat, and also fiqh al-Ibadat, and fiqh jinayat, everything, not only Muamalat, everything. So every issue he talks about it, and he cites, you know, as I told you, even some books were not found today, but he cites from that book the earlier scholars, because he was living in 450. So you have almost 300 years of work, and you know already that most of the work went to Spain all the way, because they make copies of the work and then they send to Spain. But later, you know what happened, that most of our treasures, the turas, has been destroyed. We only have few. So every time he talks about any issue, he weaves the earlier scholars idea, and then he won't be restricting to any mazhab, right? He also he won't be only covering for mazhab. No, he don't do that. He also bring for mazhab. He also bring, like, for example, Hassan al-Basri, like Sufyan al-Thawri, like Auza'i. You know, these are the other scholars' views. They are not actually in four imams category. There are also many. You need to understand this. Let me give you a hint, a tip actually to understanding the mazhab before we go into the next one. It is not that one Sharia became into four mazhab. Do not ever think that. It's not like that. Because sometimes we may have the idea that why we have to be in four mazhab, why we cannot become one, right? I think most of you have this question, right? So let me answer you. Very simple answer to you. If you think that why Islam is in four, why cannot be one, let me give you this answer. It was not Sharia was one and it's been divided into four. Sharia was more than 100. There were 100 mazahib within that 300, 400 years. But finally, it's keep on merging, and keep on merging until it became four. It is not, remember, it is not actually one became four, because this is the point, you know, most of us we don't get it. We need to understand this. So many ulama, so many ideas, so many fiqh, but everything was merged, everything compiled, and then when they saw only four imams were available who had a majority scholars following their idea. So this is what happened. It's happened slowly. It happens, what they call it. It happens. It didn't happen overnight, right? Thank you so much. That was the word I was looking for. It happened gradually. Gradually. So that is the beauty of fiqh, by the way. You know, another example can be given why. Maybe this is not relevant. I just give it to you. Why Islam allow for, you know, when they talk about polygamy, right? They talk about why Islam allow for marriages. Yeah, this is not about, not necessary it has to go with every culture. This is the Arab culture. Before the arrival of Islam, Arabs used to marry more than 10, 20, 30. You got the point now? They used to marry more than 10, 20, 30, and then they've been doing injustice. Then Allah said, okay, go until 4. Don't go more than 4. You can marry until 4 only if you can pay justice. If you think you will become injustice, then better you keep in 1. So it is not actually necessary for every tradition and culture that they should follow. If your culture allow you to go for 1, khalas, keep that 1. Alhamdulillah, that's good enough already. But if you want to go for more than that, make sure that you are eligible for it, right? So people always come and criticize. So we must understand the history behind it, all right? So so he actually, mashallah, Ibn Hazm covering all those ulama, not only 4, more than that. He also quotes the evidence they cite, and then he discusses the evidence, whether the view is correct or not correct. Then he brings his own evidence to support his own view. So this kind of argument makes highly scholarly discussion, right? That's why many scholars, when they describe al-Muhalla, they say it is an encyclopedia of Islamic fiqh, right? As I told you, there is only one disadvantage, because, you know, when Ibn Hazm do the criticism, often it's like, you know, scathing in his criticism. of his opponents. Other than that, there is no doubt that he is a defender. Of course, he has to defend what he says, right? And then, of course, because of this Muhalla bil-Athar, the Zahiri school of law came out, right? So there were so many other ulamas, especially in Pakistan, some other places as well, you know, doing research on this book. In fact, you know, many other ulamas in his time, after his time, for example, the one who wrote al-Mughni, Ibn Qudama, you know, they says that like Ibn Abdul Salam, he's one of the Imam who came after Ibn Hazm. He himself say, I did not see any book of knowledge in Islam like Ibn Hazm's Muhalla. So many, you know, so many things. In fact, Muhammad Abu Zuhra, by the way, is the contemporary scholar. Okay, don't say, when I say Abu Zahra looks like an old scholar name, but he is a contemporary scholar. He's a Misri scholar, one of the leading scholar in 20th century. He himself says about the book, Muhammad Abu Zahra, I think most probably when you are doing the assessment of data collection, you will see his name quite often, Abu Zahra, because Abu Zahra has done tremendous work on this kind of classical book. He has done what they call tahqiq, meaning he has done editing of those books. So he talks about this book, Ibn Hazm's Muhalla. He says it is truly and accurately the pillar of Islamic fiqh. It is quite useful book, he says that. All right, so this is what his book's all about. So now let's go into talk about the economic ideas. So basically his economic ideas covers 4 topics. Number 1 is the basic needs and poverty. Number 2, zakah. Number 3, taxes. Number 4, land tenure system. So now these 4 these are the great topics, by the way. These 4 topics, when he talks about all these, which I will come later, but I just want to give you an idea. After reading his comments, his discussion in these 4, people started, some of them, they started telling that he's a social economist, socialist economist. Even somebody said he is the liberalist. But I will come back to that. I will inshallah give you some answers about whether he is a socialist or not. Because when he talks about the basic needs and poverty, he says that there are 4 basic standards of living is actually number 1, food, number 2, drink, number 3, clothing, and then shelter. So he says that the food must be sufficient for the provision of the health, the clothing must be sufficient to cover aura, and the shelter must be sufficient to protect from the weather, whether it is cold or hot. All right. He went to the extent saying that, you know, this is where actually the socialist idea comes. He says that this is compulsory on each and every rich people to provide sustenance to the poor people. He says that if you are living side by side, you are in a city and you are a rich person, you cannot let a poor person spend his night. You have to, you know, it's like, you know, but what they say, let's say you have 5 roti canai, and you started eating roti canai, let's say 1, and then you go to 2, and you go to 3 maybe, and you finish eating 3. Do you know you're full already? Alhamdulillah, you are good. Your stomach is full. You know that 4th and 5th roti canai, it is not yours. It is not yours. It is actually belong to the needy person of that time. So that 4th and 5th, actually, you must give it to some buddy in that city, whoever needs the roti canai. You cannot keep the roti canai for dinner or for the next day. So this is what the socialism idea. I'm just telling you, this is a socialism idea. All right. The same kind of thing he said, the rich are obliged to provide sustenance to the poor living in their region. If they try to neglect or avoid it or deflect from this responsibility, then the head of state must compel them. So this is kind of discussion that he actually gives. Actually, this is what he says, that poverty comes because of the rich people earns a lot. This is what his idea was there, and he wanted the rich people to go for it. I mean, to earn whatever it is, but they must help the society in order to fulfill the basic needs, which is in fact a fundamental indicator to the existence of poverty. Because these four things, if it's not there, for sure poverty cannot be eliminated, right? So this is what actually he beautifully says. The next, actually, he talks about zakah, of course. When he talks about zakah, of course, he says obligatory status. He says that if someone come and say that he doesn't want to pay zakah to the government, he says that he must be murtad, apostate. He must be punished. And then he also says that once you do not pay zakah on that year, don't think that you can pay for the next year, because you have already committed sin. So there is no second chance for you. You have committed sin. You have to get punished for that. So he's quite strict in payment of the zakat. All right. And the unpaid zakah is never written off. Such unpaid zakah is a form of debt to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and those entitled to zakah. Then he talks about taxes. Taxes is something quite interesting, because this is where he brings what he said first in the basic need. He said that he says that he very much concerned with the factor of justice in the tax system. We consider that imposing tax compulsory is a kind of Islamic tax system, he call it. Some comments are there. They criticize Ibn Hazm, saying that Ibn Hazm thought payment of tax is not necessarily Islamic. It has to be from the state. So these kind of things are there, but still he says that taxes should be paid. It's within the limit of the Sharia. Absence of ethics can bring about the downfall of even the best structural and administrative system, because in the final analysis, the system must still be run by human beings who may not possess the proper ethics commensurate with the beauty of the administration. So he talks about, he talks about the lowest branch of the finance department has to be located in every kampong, and there must be collection of the taxes, and then distribution of taxes must be done in that place. He also called the officer named Ashar. Ashar means what? The one who collect the taxes. So there are so many terms that he introduced. Next, he actually talks about land tenure theories. This is where he says that the use of an agricultural land has been extensively, of course, when it comes to a land, he has a different point of view. Again, it is also related, it is also became the reason why he is being called a socialist. He says that you cannot, if you have the land, you have only two choices. Either you go to the land and you work on it, to make the harvesting. You take the crop out. So as a farmer, you work on it, or you can do muzara'a. Muzara'a means what? You have another people. It's like a mudaraba, partnership. You bring another partner into that land, and then you work together. You become the muzari', the partnership in agriculture. What he opposes, this is the only two choices. What he opposes is actually, you should not give your land to someone on the basis of rental. So the leasing the land, this is what quite common nowadays being happening. Everybody, most of them, they do leasing the land. They have the land, they don't know how to do, they don't know, or they don't want to do the farming, and they are not expert, or maybe they don't want to do, they are busy with some other thing. What they do, they lease. So people are looking for leasing, and they give rental, and then they get the payment as a rent. This point of view, according to Ibn Hazm, he actually totally rejected. He says that the concept of muzara'a must be there. You cannot simply give it to somebody and ask someone to pay only the money, only the rental, which is actually not the right thing to do for that particular land. This is what actually his idea, but majority scholars, they said it is possible to lease land. Okay, so I just want to add something. Like I told you earlier, I want to correct the misconception that Ibn Hazm was called as a socialist. That's because, you know, he was fighting for the welfare of the people. He was even enjoining taxes. He said that rich people should pay more taxes so that the poverty can be eliminated. His constant concern over people's interests also there, while he was a wazir in 3 different times. So this is what actually show, these are the things that show that, you know, he could be a socialist, but not necessarily he has to be a socialist, because whatever that actually he did, it might look like a socialistic idea, but not necessarily he has to be the socialist, because the characteristic of looking into poverty alleviation, because now today every one of us talks about poverty alleviation, but you don't have to be the socialist, I mean labeled as a socialist. You actually have a good character of socialism, you can have the good character of capitalism, but you don't have to call yourself as a socialist, or you don't have to call yourself as a capitalist. You just be normal. So he was actually of course wanted to elevate the poor people, and wanted to make them equal to everybody, which because he wanted to raise their position. So these are the basic all these basic idea is what is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and his struggles against forces like, you know, taxes and everything, of course it is a good way of administrative skill. It's like, you know, you are a tax specialist and you are actually giving some idea, like, you know, we are doing budgeting today. We are doing budgeting and we know that, okay, from this tax we can use this money, right? So that kind of thing actually. Also, you know, people call him as a liberal. I don't think he's a liberal because of Zahiri. Not necessarily he has to be the liberal, because you know, whatever the Sharia, I mean, whatever the taxes that he says, he didn't say that this is non-Sharia compliant. You know, he didn't say that, you know, because as a liberalist, they say that, okay, Ibn Hazm thought
it's making a lot of noise, like a lot of static. cannot hear you. It's like,
or problem. Very loud.
How long has been there? Is that you cannot hear me at all, or you can hear me?
Alhamdulillah, it's better now. It's better.
Now it's clear. Now it's clear.
Now it's better.
Oh, please stop me if you cannot hear. Okay, please. So what was the last thing that you were hearing from me? Anyone can tell me what was the last thing that you were hearing from me?
About Ibn Hazm.
Ibn Hazm, that is the whole topic. What was the last point?
You mentioned about this, doctor. The socialist. The Ibn Hazm is not a socialist and liberal. Yeah.
Okay, then. So I think you are sticking with the last point. Yeah. Thank you, Mumtaz. Okay, so I was saying that, you know, the liberalist idea came because of this, because they thought, the liberalists, they thought that Ibn Hazm didn't see paying taxes is Sharia. That's not true, because payment of the taxes also comes under Sharia. You don't have to divide zakat and taxes. Of course, zakat is actually compulsory. Of course, is a compulsory, but the additional payment cannot be out of Sharia. It's like, for example, 5 times prayer, 17 rak'ah is actually Sharia. Am I right? But what about additional payment, additional praying of nafil sunnah? Will it come under Sharia or not? The additional prayers, let's say 30 days of fasting is actually Sharia. What about the additional fasting? So the same thing here, you know, even though you are paying the taxes, even those days, payment of the taxes also been used to eliminate poverty, to fulfill the basic requirement. This is also part of Sharia. This is what actually I have it with regard to Ibn Hazm's economic ideas. Yeah. So I think that's all from me, and this is your attendance.